Hello, everybody, and welcome to the session on building confidence to communicate with impact. Arunima, we seem to love this word impact, don't we? So many of our titles have the word impact in them, and that's because that's exactly what we want each one of our communication coaching program students to do at the end of the program. We want them to communicate more effectively. We want them to communicate with more impact. And like we've mentioned from the very start, if you sign up for the 3-month course, we want you to communicate at least 50% better than when you started. I'm digressing slightly, Arunima, if you don't mind me digressing right at the start. Um, a lot of us, the problem is we don't believe we can get 50% better in 3 months. And I'm here to tell you from 10 years of experience that even a lot of people that have been to 2 whole days, right? That's a lot of hours of learning that they have when they're in physical classrooms with me. And most of these corporates actually put their people in these physical classrooms for 2 whole days, sometimes 3 whole days. And for those students that actually take that whatever hours of content together and start acting upon it from the next day, we've seen such dramatic changes in them, like literally within 2 days. And people that start implementing those learnings, it's like their life completely changes on the communication area when they do that. However, like with all things, you have to do the hard work that is required to get better, right? Nothing is going to happen magically. You're never going to just wake up out of bed one day and be much better at this, right? So you play your part, we'll play our part in us getting better. And yeah, today we have an interesting topic. Like all topics are interesting. Why is this topic interesting? Actually, this topic is interesting because I'm sure all of y'all will agree that if you want to communicate effectively, it is very important for you to have a certain amount of confidence with which to communicate. Because if that's not the case, even if you are a subject matter expert, even if you know your stuff well, even if you have a decent command over the language for that matter, and if you're not confident, the way you'll go about communicating will be fairly poor, right? So I think all of us will agree that confidence becomes a very, very important part of you communicating effectively. Now, we've learned already, if you're watching this class, you have already learned a whole lot of things about how to communicate effectively. And a lot of the things that we're going to talk about here in terms of improving your confidence levels, which in turn will help your communication, a lot of those things are around the behavioral side, in terms of the way you think on a day-to-day basis, and what are the different things that you can do which will help increase your confidence and in turn help you communicate in a much better fashion, right? So that's what we're trying to work on in this class. It is more behavioral than it is skill based, the class that we're going to do today, right? But I think it's very important, and a lot of y'all are going to find great value in this class. Now, in this class there are tons of uh, introspective or reflective exercises that you need to do. So I hope for all classes, but especially this one, you have a pen and a notepad handy with you, which are actually going to take that same notepad for the coaching class along with your personal coach, right? But if you don't have a notepad handy, pause the class right now, get a pen and notepad handy, because without that, you're not going to be able to do this class well. Okay, so good, let's get started. Now, what is self-confidence? This is a very interesting question in itself, because when you ask most people this question, they're often confused about how to define this subject, right? It's not an easy subject to define, but I think these are good definitions that Arunima has put together. So self-confidence is belief in yourself and your abilities, regardless of what others may think about you, right? So I think in one line, belief in yourself and your abilities, that's what self confidence means. It's about your trust in yourself and your ability to deal with challenges, solve problems, and engage successfully with the world. Again, a beautifully crafted couple of lines by Arunima. Yeah, that's what self confidence is, right? And we're going to get to a slide which talks about the importance of self confidence. But typically when I interact with people on this subject, I share a very simple line to them saying that if you are not confident in yourself, how do you expect other people to be confident in you? If you don't believe in yourself, how do you expect other people to believe in you? Because for the person sitting in front of you, he's largely thinking that you have lived in your body for what, 25, 30, 40 years, however old you are. You know yourself very well and you don't have belief in yourself. I have barely interacted with you for 5 minutes. How am I supposed to have belief in you when you, knowing yourself for so many years, don't have belief in yourself, right? So irrespective of the situation that you find yourself in, whether it's a job interview, whether it's an appraisal, whether it's a meeting that you're going for, whether you're a leader, whether you're negotiating with stakeholders, it doesn't matter what situation you're in. Confidence is either going to make you or is going to break you, and it's going to have a direct, powerful impact on your communication. Arunima has appeared on the screen. Yes, Arunima.
Is self-confidence and self-esteem, are they two different things or are they the same thing?
There are slight differences in self-esteem and self-confidence, but I wouldn't want to complicate an already tricky matter by kind
Mm-hmm.
of getting into those differences and kind of trying to break those things up. But all that I can tell you is that they're like brothers to each other, right? And they're
Mm-hmm.
very, very, very
Mm-hmm.
similar in nature. There could be some technical kind of differences between the two, but that's not something to kind of worry about that much.
Okay.
Mm. More often than not, just like a simple thought, self-esteem largely when you try to define it is often like the more internal thing, and in the confidence is in a way the manifestation of that that esteem that you have, right? It's like saying, is self-belief and self-confidence the same thing, right? And you would say,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, when you believe yourself, more often than not the external manifestation
Then you
of that
exude
is
confidence.
yes. So all these words are very, very connected to each other and largely the same thing that we're talking
Mm-hmm.
about. Mhm.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, so this is what self confidence is, and that's why that how do you get that belief in yourself and your abilities that then starts reflecting to the world outside. So that is something which is very important. Okay. Now, the lack of confidence can manifest itself in two ways, right? This is something important to understand, which means a lot of people have an ongoing lack of confidence. Now, what do I mean by that? A lot of people you will find are seem to be low on confidence or lack confidence irrespective of the situation around them. It doesn't matter what's happening. It's almost like they're feeling a lack of confidence in perpetuity irrespective of what activity they indulge in or what they do, right? That's one type of a person. And you have another type of person, which is number two, which is the situational lack of confidence, right? You could have a lot of people that don't really feel a lack of confidence when it comes to most situations that they're in, or like on perpetuity on a day to day basis. But when you put these people in certain situations, for example, a situation like making an important presentation or doing a meeting with somebody really senior within the company or interacting with a critical client that's a stakeholder, right? So in situations like that, they feel a lack of confidence or they don't know what to do, right? They're not feeling it all the time, but they're feeling it in these situations, right? So these are the two kind of categories broadly that you'd find the manifestation of lack of confidence. And through all the things that we're going to discuss, we're largely going to try to tackle both these things, right? Now, of course, you get as a student of the communication coaching program, you get the programs that you select. So we have done a whole class on how to deal with nervousness while presenting, right? So it's almost a 90-minute or a 100-minute class that we've done only on how to deal with nervousness or in a way lack of confidence when you're making presentations. So if you've got that class, great, there's a specialized area there. But here when we're talking about the subject, we're talking about in most situations, how do you deal with it? Or if you're somebody that's feeling a perpetual sense of lack of confidence, what do you need to do with that, right? um, yeah. Now, all of us know the importance of self confidence, right? I can more or less assure you. I don't know whether there's Arunima has given some data to us after this slide, which we'll get to. Um, but I think all of us know that people that have more confidence tend to do much better in their professional and their personal lives. I don't think there is any doubt about that. I don't think there's one person that would disagree with that. I'm sure you would add to that by saying that, okay, if you become overconfident or arrogant in certain situations, that is not going to serve you well, and you'll tend to make a whole host of mistakes in your life if you get overconfident or arrogant around stuff, right? That's not going to serve you well for sure. Um, but you will also agree that professionally or personally, having that confidence is of utmost important to you in all situations, right? And so many of us have since our college days literally seen so many other people excel at stuff, largely because they had more confidence than somebody else. And we were just sitting there saying that, oh, I should have done this, I should have said this, I should have asked that girl or boy out, right? And see that somebody else went and did the asking that girl or boy out for a date or marriage or whatever it is. Maybe it could have been me if I was more confident. So it's literally in every aspect of your life does that play about, right? Yes, Arunima.
How do
Just
you, like,
sorry,
since you
just by the way,
mentioned, yeah.
anybody listening to this class is going to be a highly interactive class. So Arunima is going to be asking lots of questions, because when we were working on this content, we realized that we need to make it interactive for people to enjoy this class specifically a lot more. Yes, Arunima.
Since you mentioned overconfidence,
Yeah.
how do you recognize confidence versus overconfidence?
It's very difficult to recognize a confidence versus overconfidence, because the line between a lot of these things are so thin.
Hmm.
You should hopefully surround yourself by truth speakers and people that will actually be your true friends and give you feedback if you're ever crossing that line where you're
Mm-hmm.
going from confident to being overconfident or arrogant in situations, right? So
Mm-hmm.
more often than not, the people that put you in under control are your true friends and your closest family that really cares for you. So really
Correct.
surround yourself by that and appreciate them when they tell you that, right? There are lots of other things that could be indicators for that, right? The way another good indicator is when you stop listening to people. And
Mm-hmm.
by listening, I mean not about agreeing with them, like we've seen in our class, just understanding what they're trying to say, processing stuff a
Mm-hmm.
lot more,
Mm-hmm.
having a perpetual feeling that you know it all, that other people don't know
Mm-hmm.
stuff around that. So a lot of these things are indicators, but if you want somebody to call it out for you, your
Right.
closest family and friends are the people that can call it out for you, because they can see it more clearly in you.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. Having said that, a couple of things in my experience of working with people for 10 years. Most people that I have met err on the side of being extremely low on confidence, and not on the side of being overconfident, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as a matter of fact, if you ask me, very few people err on the side of being overconfident. The majority of people
Got
always
it.
are underconfident from my experience. And yeah, so that's what I've seen. So I would say that is the bigger problem. And I've seen that overconfidence, typically what happens is that people that are confident use that confidence to achieve a fair amount in their life.
Mm-hmm.
And once they get to achieving a fair amount in their life, that leads to them being arrogant. Um, and that eventually leads to some kind of a hit that they get, or sometimes a dramatic fall as well from where they are, right?
Got it.
So think about it. Their confidence helps them
Has
get to
led to.
positions, has led to positions. And if they don't deal with those situations wisely and become overconfident or arrogant, that leads to their downfall or some hit. It may not be a dramatic
Correct.
downfall, which is there. And overconfidence, very, very, the word con man. right? A very negative word,
Hmm.
con man. The word con man comes from confidence man, right? And what they're basically trying to say is somebody that's overconfident and can literally pull out a heist of some kind, right? Like really fool people just with their confidence. And that's exactly what you shouldn't be using. You should
Correct.
use your your confidence in positive ways, and it definitely can be used in positive ways, right? So of course this is
Yeah.
a list of three things that we've put down: the importance of self confidence, a greater self worth, more confident, the more confidence you have, the more you value yourself and your capabilities. So the more confident you are, you have a kind of general sense of well-being, right? You feel a lot better in your own body when you're a lot more confident. It reduces self-doubt and negative thoughts. You stop questioning if you're valuable or capable, because that, again, if you're constantly going to be feeling and questioning your value in different situations, that's not a very good feeling to have inside you, right? And you stop comparing yourself to others all the time. If you're a fairly self-confident person, it's not that you can eradicate comparing yourself to other people, right? Because as human beings, we're very naturally designed to compare ourselves to other people, but you do it in the right proportions and you do it in the right ways. You don't do it too negatively. If the second point is, one experiences less fear, anxiety, especially when faced with challenges. Confidence gives you the skills and coping methods to handle setbacks and failures without being crippled by them, right? I think all of us will agree that confidence is something which is required, especially during setbacks, failures, critical moments in life. That's where confidence really comes to serve you well. And if you don't have that confidence during those critical moments in life when you need it, and Arunima and myself are having a discussion about this, that especially when you're in uncharted waters, when you're in areas of your life which are new to you, that are not the regular for you in some way, that's when it's very important to be confident and be able to deal with those situations. So confidence is going to serve you extremely well if you kind of learn on the subject and build that confidence within yourself. And it also, if you're confident, you have better and improved interactions with others, right? You stop worrying about what others think about you, and you become more assertive and persuasive. I have to add here, though, a lot of people that are listening to this class are going to easily mix up somebody who's confident with somebody who's overconfident and arrogant, and we're definitely not talking about people in that category, right? Those people in that category who are overconfident, arrogant, those are people that are absolutely annoying to deal with, if you ask me, right? Arrogant people, they're absolutely annoying to deal with, at a social level, even at a business level sometimes, right? And that's not what you want. But if you're confident, in a way, another kind of phrase that you use in English is somebody who's comfortable in their own skin, right? And there's nothing which is more uh, nothing which is more a person who's nicer to deal with than a person who is just comfortable in their own skin, who's not trying to be somebody else, who's not trying to act a certain role, so on and so forth. And even for that matter, people that fake confidence, right? It's so easy in most situations to tell when people are faking confidence and they're not genuinely feeling confident on the inside. And that, again, more often than not, those people tend to make a fool out of themselves in most social situations, right? When they're just absolutely faking it and not feeling it inside. Of course, sure, Arunima has come on screen to ask me whether fake it till you make it works,
Yeah.
right? So that's what you're here to ask me. And while it what typically fake it till you make it means, if you remember, when we learned on the subject of body language, right? If you look at body language is such an important part for you to feel a certain way, right? Because your body language tends to kind of impact the chemical release in your body, and that again is connected to your confidence levels and how you feel. So a good thought is fake your body language till you make it, to a certain extent, right? Fake that body language till you make it. The
Got it.
other kind of reason why people say fake it till you make it is they say, okay, you know what, how would a person who was the CEO kind of dress up, right? So try to dress up like that, although you're not the
Hmm.
CEO. Why don't you How would your CEO walk in a certain room? How do you think your CEO would kind of think about addressing this audience? So you're basically trying to get a
Got it.
person to get inspired and learn certain things by saying put yourself in their shoes, right? So that's what
Mm-hmm.
fake it till you make it actually means to a certain extent. It doesn't mean that you just be fake, because people with fake confidence are, as a matter of fact, quite irritating, as are arrogant people, as are people with low confidence, right? It's all
Correct.
I can tell you, it's very interesting. But as somebody that's also that runs a company and in the past done so many interviews of people, you find people on both ends of the spectrum. We find people that are extremely low on confidence, that are terrible to deal with, right? You wouldn't give them a job at all. You find people that are overconfident, right, and almost arrogant during the interview, and you don't want to give them a job either. And then you find people who are faking confidence, aren't genuinely feeling it, but they're putting on
Mm-hmm.
some kind of a act which is so inauthentic that you kind of find it suspicious as to what they're
Correct.
saying and what they're doing. And what you want is a certain, in a way, a calm confidence, right? That's what you want, right? Somebody that seems
Right.
unshakable, somebody that seems emotionally regulated. You want all those things, and that's what confidence, I guess, really means. And that's what we're aiming for, at least through this session, right? Now, I think some great statistics that
Yeah.
we've put together. A survey conducted with British Employee Fund, right? So this is international data, which is, they say 70% of people admit to regularly lacking confidence in themselves when it comes to their career and speaking up at work. 70%, that's crazy, right? That's a huge majority. I would actually put that number at 80 or 90%, but even 70 from research is crazy. Confidence related issues in connection to their jobs include afraid of putting own ideas forward, client meetings, or working closely with a superior on a daily basis, right? So these are the kind of things that people typically get afraid about. And can you imagine a situation where you're constantly feeling a, afraid of putting your own ideas forward to somebody, right? And then you have the idea, you're not putting it forward, and then somebody else just comes along the way and they put that same idea ahead, and then you're constantly feeling, why didn't I say that when I knew that thing, right? Either a lack of confidence that you have, a lack of communication skills that you have, and that's exactly what you're trying to sort out here, right? Client meetings, you either sometimes win a contract, not win a contract, depending on how you communicate or how confident you are in both these things. Again, like we mentioned at the start, very closely connected to each other. And when we say working closely with a superior on a daily basis, right? If a leader is dealing with 5 people and he has to really constantly deal with a person that's extremely low on confidence, that's likely to impact their work, they're likely to communicate in a bad fashion, again, there's going to have a detrimental impact on you, right? 14% of those questions felt that they had missed out on a promotion due to the lack of faith in their own ability, right? 14%. I would actually put that number at a lot higher. And about 26% of respondents believe that confident people tend to be better performers at work, right? So the statistics are all there to support what we're saying on this subject. Right now, this is an interesting slide, and these are some causes of lack of confidence which are there, right? Which is very interesting. And if you have the time on after this class, you should try to read up more on this subject. That will help you. So typically, the first point here is your lack of confidence, or you feeling low on confidence, could be and in just so many cases, it's really a, in a way, a genetic thing. It's a personality thing. It's something which is your natural disposition. So a lot of research puts it at almost, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 25 to 50% of the cases, it could just be because you are naturally wired or naturally equipped to feel slightly low in confidence in just so many cases. Right now, while you are naturally equipped like that, this is one of those issues which you can't seek refuge under your natural personality, right? You can't do that. You need to, through classes like this, through efforts that you're going to take post this class, really equip yourself to break out of certain molds with the right training that you get, right? So no point, although the truth of the matter is a lot of people feel low on confidence because they, because of their genetics, because of their temperament, because they're just born like that in some way, no reason to seek refuge under it, right? A lot of people feel low on confidence because of bad past experiences, right? Now what could those bad past experiences that lead to low confidence are? It could be a difficult childhood, right? And difficult childhoods, really, there's a whole range of difficult childhoods that a person could have. But even something like having overtly critical parents, or having parents that constantly shouted and constantly battered you and constantly put you down, and maybe they did it, they had some kind of right intention that they had in mind for it, but very often that leads to people having low confidence, right, as they grow up. So much of what happens to us during our childhood has such a big impact on us as we go ahead, right? I know that this was the second point, was the case with me. Poor performance academically or professionally. So at one point of time in my life, as I was growing up, and I can actually I share this with people all the time, that when I was in school and I just passed out from school in 10th standard, I would put myself in the category of somebody that had low confidence. And the reason why I had low confidence back then is because I went to an ICSE school, and I went to what was considered to be Goa's kind of. I grew up in Goa. It was Goa's best school, and I went there, and I wasn't a very good student when I was growing up. Right, I was a 50% student, and just so many people in my family, amongst my friends, used to be really good students. So there was a constant kind of sense of feeling that, oh, you know what, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, right? That's what happened. However, my mother she used to badger me for not getting good marks as I was growing up. But she'd constantly say, you know what, but you're really a smart kid. At least she said that. She'd like really go hard on me for the marks, but at least she'd somewhere say, but you're a smart kid. But that really never registered in my head. I In school I would constantly think that, oh, you know what, I'm not really smart. And then what happened was very strangely for me, and I consider that to be one of the kind of turning points of my life. I went from that kind of elite school where a lot of people were very very good, and from there, from that ICSE board, I went to Goa board, right, which wasn't as competitive. In my 11th standard, there wasn't an ICSE board in commerce in Goa, so I went to a board that was far less competitive than the previous environment that I was in. And all of a sudden I had kind of this sense that, oh, you know what, I look at my class, I'm quite good. I thought I was so bad all along, but that's not the case. I am actually decently good at these things. And then I started taking up a lot of activities I was interested in that I wouldn't do earlier, right, in my school, because it was so competitive. I tried public speaking once. I didn't do it very well. There were so many people that were better than me in this environment. I said, okay, come on, I don't think too many people are as good as me, let me try doing it. And I'm like, okay, I didn't do it that badly. And that was a big turning point in my life, where I actually started feeling more confident when I went from a highly competitive kind of environment to a slightly lesser competitive environment in my 11 12 standard. And from there again, that same kind of journey continued for me. So even my academics improved in my 11th 12th standard, my extracurricular improved, just so many things kind of improved. But a lot of people don't go through that same experience I did, right? So for a lot of people, because they're not that good, they weren't that good at academics, and somebody else was good at academics, they constantly have this kind of they're low on confidence, and they carry that baggage even in adult life, in a lot of cases. Yes, Arunima.
In this case, the story that you just shared, your skills did not change, right? Your skills, let's say if it was public speaking, when you were in school versus when you were in your. So my question is, for a person, if they put themselves in a situation where they're surrounded by uh, people who don't achieve as much, is that then confidence, or is it the wrong situation to be in? I'm not sure if you got my question.
I got your question. To start with, I think in a 10 standard situation, saying that my skills were the same, I don't think I had any skills at all to start with, right? Back in the 10 standard. So
Okay.
I neither did I have
Mm.
presentation skills, nor did I have public speaking skills. I didn't have any of those skills. As a matter of fact, when I went from my between my 10th and 11th standard, since we had so much of free time, I went, my mother, who was very conscious about me developing. I was lucky to have her, but she kind of put me through this public speaking workshop from and that was the start of me
Mm-hmm.
learning, like trying to build that skill. But as you know, the skill doesn't get built just
Mm-hmm.
by going for a workshop, right? You need to actually go and apply it, and you need to start doing it. But I at least
Correct.
got a little bit of confidence to go and start applying it and building that skill, right? So
Hmm.
the reason why I made that face
Mm-hmm.
is I didn't have any skill at all. Like most people don't have any skills at all in school, really, right? They're just kind of mugging up stuff
Correct.
and putting it down. Secondly, in that situation for me as a kid, I think going from that ultra competitive environment to a situation where I felt uh, slightly good about myself was a good
Mm-hmm.
thing to happen to me, right?
Hmm.
And
Right.
is that the kind of same thing that you do as an adult? Maybe not,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Or maybe you could. Like, life is strange, and a lot of these things are so strange that you don't know whether that could actually help somebody or not. But I think the larger point that I was trying to make, at least for me, how things panned out was that I was low on confidence because my academics weren't good. And a
Right.
lot of people carry that through their life where they don't think that they're that smart. And for me, thankfully, although I
Hmm.
would feel that way, there was a turnaround because of a unplanned, unforeseen event in a way that happened to me, where in a certain situation that
Correct.
confidence built up in me, saying that I am not that bad, right? And a lot of us need to start doing
Correct.
this as we go along in this class. A lot of us will see that a lot of those things is what we need to start doing today. We need to shed a lot of the baggage that we have, that we've carried on for so many years, and these things that we've carried on for so many years about how we're not good at something, how so many people were smarter than us. And I don't think I've shared it here, but I've shared it in some other class where I say that academics in a lot of cases is like, it's like playing football. And when you get to your work life, it's like the game changes from football to basketball. Now some people are good at both because they learn the rules of both
Correct.
and get good at both, but it's not necessarily just because you're good at academics means you're going to be good at your professional and work life, right? They're different skills, and you need to learn the skills in both areas
Correct.
that are required. But yeah, so that was a confidence
Correct.
boosting event for me, in a way. Have I answered the question, or you
Correct.
have a
May
follow-up?
I
Yeah.
express myself?
E. Arunima, we can't hear you at all. Yes, Arunima, you were asking.
Right. Right. So I want to just take it one step ahead. So let's
Yeah.
say a person has an X skill. I can't think of a skill, but they have
Yeah.
an X skill which they believe they're not very good at, or they may truly not be good at it
Yeah.
in the current situation. And then let's say they move companies where they turn out like their skills are actually above average
Yeah.
compared to everyone else over there.
Yeah.
So in that situation, they may feel confident about themselves. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Now, if they're placed back in the previous situation, which is the
Yeah.
first situation,
Yeah.
what will happen to their confidence level?
Yeah. It's tricky. It's almost impossible to answer this question, right? I'll give you an example where, like, somebody could. We have a bunch of lawyers that have kind of joined this program as well. So let me give you an example in their context. It may not be
Mm-hmm.
fully accurate, but we'll kind of throw light on the issue. So if you're a young gun, and if you go to the high court and say you appear in front of another senior counsel, or somebody who's a really experienced counsel or lawyer on the other side,
Mm-hmm.
and he's going to batter you, right? He's going to kind of
Mm.
literally thrash you during that interaction that is there, because you don't have the experience, or you're not equipped to deal with stuff at that level. So maybe good advice to you could be that if you want to improve your court craft in a way, you need to actually start practicing a little bit in the lower courts, right? So you need to go
Hmm.
down there, kind of hone your skills to a certain degree, of how you go about doing that, your confidence of going about doing that, and then you need to kind of bring yourself back and try a little bit of high court again. And you get what I'm trying to say? So that's what I'm trying to say.
Correct.
Sometimes you
Yeah.
need to go to an environment which gives you the space to grow, right? And
Correct.
doesn't batter your confidence on a day to day level. So that is the kind of parallel that I would give there, right?
Okay. Okay.
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does. I think it
Yeah,
does.
yeah.
Yeah.
The
So
thing is that
basically, yeah.
these matters, Arudima, fortunately or unfortunately, they don't have a crystal clear, straight jacketed
Hmm.
answer where you say, if this happens, will this happen for sure?
Correct.
No. And that's why this class needs to be so interactive, so we can have these conversations that can really help throw light on this issue. Because
Absolutely.
unlike something like a McKenzie model or precision model of
Hmm.
communication, a lot of these things which are really more skills than anything else, right? There's a certain model to follow, there's a certain thing to do. A lot of these things fall in a gray area, that
Correct.
is there, right? And those are solved more often than not
Yeah.
through conversations. Yeah, so getting back to our bad past experiences, the other kind of bad past experiences could be just life experiences and events that could kind of lead to a person not feeling that confident about themselves, right? So what could a past bad experience could be? Like Arunima has listed a few things out here. If you've had a huge financial loss by doing something, often that batters your confidence towards indulging in probably other activities that are entrepreneurial or other activities in that domain in so many cases, right? So that could be something. It could be just bullying of some kind, right? As you were growing up, if you constantly got bullied, that's something that can lead to a lack of confidence. Other big life events like a divorce, something like that can kind of hit your confidence on the front of having meaningful relationships with a significant other, right? So those are kind of your past life experiences and events, again has a huge impact on whether you're confident or not. Then, like we discussed, other kind of causes are the situational causes, right? And which are largely about uncharted territory. And every time we need to go into some kind of uncharted territory, that's where our confidence really takes a beating. Uncharted territory could be some things that you don't do on a day-to-day basis, things that you're not familiar with, things that you're not comfortable with. You could be comfortable talking to your immediate boss because you probably do that on a day-to-day basis, right? But if you have to go and kind of articulate your thoughts in front of your CEO, that is when that's an uncharted territory for you. It's not the regular for you, and that would kind of you'd have butterflies in your stomach while doing that. So a lot of the cause of lacking confidence often is situational. Then you have skill related roadblocks, right? Because when you know that you don't have certain skills that are required for something to be done, you'd often feel a roadblock there, right? So that would often lead to low confidence. And a classic case there is, of course, just your communication skills, and these two things are so interwoven with each other. But if you know you have poor communication skills, then you're going to be low on confidence. Then if you're low on confidence, again, you'll have poorer communication skills, and that kind of vicious cycle keeps continuing. And the same thing is with stuff like your English language, right? If you know that you're in a certain environment which requires you to articulate your views in English and you're incapable of doing that, that will kind of beat down your confidence, right? For a certain role, if they need you to be well organized for you to perform in a certain way and you're unable to do that, that again will lead to a lack of confidence. So very often it's that. And of course the fifth one, and there could be, like I mentioned, these are just some of the causes of lack of confidence. I'm sure there could be many other reasons that we've not covered here, but negative thoughts or mindsets where constantly have a fear of failure that has almost become like second nature for us to have those dialogues with ourselves where we're criticizing ourselves, where we're judging ourselves, where we fear people judging us to a certain extent, where we're comparing ourselves to others. So just that constant negative thoughts in your mind, and which is something that we need to deal with through this class, right? So a lot of those things are things that cause a lack of self confidence, and there could be tons of others. Right now, mudda. Mudda is issue in English. How to become more confident, right? That's the thing that all of us want to know. And before we get into how to become more confident, I just quickly like to throw light on a lot of things that we have covered or that we cover as a part of the communication coaching program that actually leads to your confidence going up, right? So for example, if you know how to structure your thoughts well when you communicate, that automatically leads you to feel more confident in interactions with others. And under the structuring your thoughts, if you know what your objective is, if you communicate with structure, if you're more precise when you communicate, that leads to more confidence when you're trained on doing that. When you demonstrate confidence, body language, like we discussed, that leads to you feeling more confident. If you remember the class that we did on body language, your emotions are connected to your body language, and your body language in turn determine your emotions, right? So that's another topic that you need to get good at if you want to improve your confidence. You need to, when you learn to speak with a certain amount of impact and command, that again leads you to feeling more confident, right? When you're doing that, when you develop fluency over language, that leads you to feel more confidence. When you're well prepared, when you practice and you know how to practice, especially in presentation scenarios as we've discussed, that again leads you to feeling more confident. When you have the social skills, when you have the etiquette, when you train yourself on conversational skills, which is one of the topics that we have, where I think in the, if you've chosen that topic, but if you know how to make conversation with people, if you know the techniques there of what to do, again that will make you feel more confident. If you know etiquette, you're sitting around a table and you know manners, etiquette, that will make you feel more comfortable, right? And if you dress well and you feel good about yourself, that again will lead you to feel more confident, right? So my point to you is, a lot of the classes that we have here will not just improve your communication skills, but like also have a huge impact on your confidence. But for this class, we are not covering these things, right? We are not covering these things because each one of them has, is being taken in a whole, in detail through all the other classes that are there. But ladies and gentlemen, if you're attending this class, my suggestion to you is ensure that you go to through almost each and every class of the communication coaching program, because all of them will improve your communication and also improve your confidence, right? And we're not going to cover it here in greater detail. Now, here, what we are going to cover is the three mantras of self confidence, which is increase your self awareness, gain confidence through success and accomplishments, and harness the power of positivity, right? These are the three things that we're going to focus on for this session, besides all the things that I just mentioned that you need to go through or do to, for you to improve your confidence, right? So let's take the first one, which is increase your self awareness. Okay, amazing topic. Now, the first point under increase your self awareness is identify specifically why you're not confident, right? And this is a topic, ladies and gentlemen, which nobody can help you besides yourself. And if you feel that you can't really help yourself, the only other person that could help you get to this answer is probably a therapist or a counselor, right? But in my opinion, if you are really honest to yourself and you really dig deep and you don't kind of fool yourself, because you're the easiest person to fool, right? If you want to fool yourself, if you don't do that and if you dig really deep, you will often know the reasons why you're not feeling confident. And then what happens is, the minute you kind of make that very specific and the minute you identify those reasons why you're not feeling confident, it becomes very easy for you to, in a way, tackle those issues. And they do not become big, kind of scary monsters for you, right? It just becomes certain kind of specific things that you need to improve on, versus when you don't know what those things are, they become big, kind of hairy, disastrous looking monsters for you, right? So ask yourself, in what situations do you lack confidence, right? And this is the time, by the way, where you get your notepads out, and at the end of this slide, you can kind of pause this and do this exercise, because you're going to have to take this to your live session and have a discussion with your coach about this. So ask yourself, in what situations do you lack confidence? What are those typical typical situations. So identify any two or three of those situations. Why do you lack confidence in these situations, right? So come up again with any 3 points, or if not more, for in those situations, what are the common reasons why you lack confidence, right? Do you feel certain skills and abilities are limiting you? If so, which ones? Like I have discussed in the past, I think in the presentation skills class as well, where I briefly touched upon this. More often than not, when I ask people why they are not feeling confident, the answers that they give largely revolve around the things that I'll tell you right now. Number one thing that people tend to say as to why they're not confident is because they are not sure about their communication skills. That is number one, right, in all cases. And they're not sure about their communication skills because in most cases it is the truth. Their communication skills are not developed enough. They know that from the inside, and they've not taken any effort to improve it. So I'm glad you are part of this program, because you're one of the few people that are actually taking the effort to get better at this thing, and you will see the dividends if you put in the work connected to it, right? Because at least you've taken this step forward. But that's one reason. The second reason, more often than not, is people are connected to the first one, but in most corporate organizations, they are not confident about their English speaking ability, right? And therefore, they end up doing a lot of they can't articulate their views that well. Somebody else can do it much better than them. Therefore, they're not feeling confidence. And this they've known for a good 20 years of their life, but they take no real action about it, right? They're busy telling their kids how to learn, what to do, but 20 years of their life they don't learn how to improve their communication skills, English skills. Lecture they can give their children on this thing, but not take that action themselves, right? Because it's hard work to improve on any area. So that's the second area where people in situations say that that's a reason why they're not confident. Again, something that you can work on. The third reason, which is the most kind of common reason, whether people say that or not, is oh, I'm scared of what people will think about me. So that's something that they say, right? I'm scared of what how people will think about me. And then when I ask them, I ask them, why does that matter to you? How people will think about me? And the real answer is, how does this impact my career? Right. So, okay, how will my super boss think about me? And then what impact will it have on my career? So this is the actual real issue. And like I've mentioned, and I'll mention in the as we go ahead, as to what is the thing that is really required to do well, and what are people often worried about, right? So that kind of fear of what will people think about me is a major one. Then the other thing is, in terms of what are the consequences of me doing something wrong in this meeting, again connected to the first one, connected to the previous point, that okay, I'm going for an important client meeting. If I don't do a good presentation, how will this impact me poorly? If I don't conduct this meeting well, or what if I lose that business, or what if I don't get that business, right? And so that's often a big fear that people have, again connected to their career. Very often a fear people have is that, do I know this subject well enough, right? And that is often because of a lack of preparation that is there around that subject, that they that situation and subject that they need to talk about, and some strange belief that on the subject that they need to discuss or talk about, on that particular subject they need to have all the answers. Any question that anybody would ask, they need to have the answer. So some strange belief like that, that they have. So that's another reason why they don't feel that confident, right? So this, in my experience, are typically the four or five kind of top reasons why people don't feel that confident, right? And very often another kind of reason, um, so maybe they're going for that meeting with somebody that is very good at articulating their views and very good at putting their views across, and somebody who's probably much more experienced, much more senior, or much more skilled for whatever reason, and they're going along with that person to do the meeting. So then they feel nervous again, because they're constantly kind of drawing comparisons with that person that they're going with for the meeting, right? But these are the common issues that I have seen coming up. But I want you to think for yourself in terms of, what situations do you lack confidence in? Why do you lack confidence in those situations? And Do you feel certain skills and abilities are limiting you? If so, which ones, right? And again, like I mentioned, two things that happen as a result of doing such thinking, when you really be honest with yourself and identify these things, it doesn't overwhelm you because you identified, you've made it very small and specific, and then you can deal with that problem instead of just having something on your mind that, oh, I'm nervous, oh, I lack confidence. So that's something that happens. And secondly, if you identify those areas, if for example, if English as a language is that area for you, then you can actually, if you're serious about improving your confidence and you're serious about these things, you can actually start working on this area, and you can get better at it, right? So yeah, this is in my opinion, identify specifically why you're not confident is the first place where you need to start. Okay, now this also, by the way, goes beyond the situational lack of confidence that you'll have, right? So for a lot of people, they probably need to, like we mentioned, what are some of the causes of self confidence? You need to go back in your history and see, and without kind of blaming your parents or blaming your background in some way, but you really need to go back and think, are some of those reasons the reasons why you still don't feel confident, right, in the situation? Are those some of the reasons why you don't feel confident, that a parent was overtly critical of you, or one of those things happened? Was it like bad academic performance? Are those things that are subconsciously still impacting you in some way? Are you still letting the ghost of your past really impact you today? So that's something that you need to give kind of deep thought to, and it's not just situational in a way, right? And if you have certain even doubts in that area, if you have doubts in that area as well, that is something that you need to kind of fix for yourself in different ways, right? And a lot of that is got to do with self talk. Now you can't go and change what happened in school. That's something that you can't do, but you can definitely kind of think about it in different ways, and that is something that'll really help. Yeah, so this is what you need to do as a start of this, and answer the questions given above, and these will be discussed with you in your live coaching sessions. And even the whole act of I think discussing them with your coach. Your coach is not a therapist, right? Your coach is not a counselor. He is a coach on the subject of communication, but I can assure you that you just articulating your views to him and having a discussion with your coach on this subject will really give you a lot of clarity on what needs to be done, right? So this is number one. Number two is understand your strengths, right? And this is what improved self-awareness is about. Understand your strengths, write down your strengths and positive attributes, identifying them will breed confidence in a way, and choose your profession or area of work based on your strength areas. Now for a lot of y'all here, it could be difficult for you to change your profession based on your strengths depending on what juncture at your career you're at. But let me kind of throw some light on this issue, which will help you deal with this a lot better. Right now, uh, what does the word strengths mean? And very often when I've asked people what is your strength, they give rather they don't know what strength means, so they give answers like, oh, my family is my strength, or something like that, right? Which is not, they don't really understand what it means. Your strength is nothing but inherent talents that you have, uh, that yeah, inherent talents that you have, which basically means stuff that you are naturally good at doing, that you then take and build into a skill that you can use in the world, right? And the things that you really build into those kind of skills, which will again, like depending on what your kind of natural talents are, which are your strengths, you need to go about choosing your career, or you need to go about choosing the kind of work that you do in that area, right? And unless you understand what those strengths are, you're always going to feel like a fish out of water, right? Einstein had this very nice quote where he said, if you expect a fish to climb a tree, it will spend its entire life thinking that it's an idiot, right? Or it's stupid. If you expect a fish to climb a tree, it will spend its entire life thinking that it's stupid and idiot. And that's what a lot of people throughout their life goes through, because they haven't identified what their strengths are really. Okay. What I often kind of tell people is a good way to choose your work or your profession is this, right? It's a mix of these three things that are there, right? So you need to identify what your strengths are or what your talents are. What are you good at? You need to identify what your passions are or what you like doing, and whatever that is, it needs to be able to pay you, right? You need to be able to make some money out of it, right? And work, profession or vocation that you choose, which is often an intersection of these things, which is what are your strengths and talents, what are you naturally very very good at, what are you really passionate about, and what is going to then pay money in both the short term and long term. That intersection is a good intersection to choose this at. Right now, I want to give a few examples for you to understand that irrespective of where you are right now in your life and career, how can you possibly go about using this, the idea of understanding your strengths right now. For me, I am okay. Let me give you another example first, right? So the classic example that I give here is the case of Harsha Bogle, right? Harsha Bogle is one of the considered to be one of India's best cricket commentators. And when Harsha Bogle was growing up, his passion or what he absolutely loved was cricket. He didn't love anything else more than he loved cricket. However, his strength or his talent wasn't in playing cricket, although he tried doing that, right? He wasn't very naturally good at tonking the ball like a Dhoni would or like a Hardik Pandya would, right? He couldn't see the ball as early as him. He couldn't spin the ball like a lot of his friends would do, even at a school level, right? So he realized that although my passion is the love for cricket that I have, I am unfortunately for myself, I'm not blessed with the talent, with the strength, which is playing cricket. But he was blessed with another strength, which was his ability to communicate, his ability to understand the game, ability to communicate in an interesting way that game, right? And therefore, he chose a profession that was at the intersection of that, which was cricket commentary, right? And he started doing that on radio, and he kept developing skills, got better, and he's one of the only non ex-player commentators that's really popular and famous, and it started paying him well as well, right? So that's how so many people have chosen their careers, right? You could be really interested in the film industry, right? Or you could really love movies, but you may not have the talents to be a good actor. But maybe because you love, your passion is films, maybe what you could be naturally good at is editing movies, right? That's something that you could understand really well. But if you try to become an actor when you don't have the talent to do it, that could lead to disastrous disastrous effects. But for that, you need to have a lot of self-awareness. You need to understand what talents is, what strengths is. You need to, in a way, have a reality check around that, right? So for me, in my life, as I was growing up, the one thing that I realized is that I am very bad at maths, and especially anything which is complex, like the cat exam kind of maths which is there. I'm very bad at that. So if there's a problem that is put forward to me saying one car is going at this speed and another car is coming, I become like that boy from Tare Zameen Pe, right? Where I don't know how to solve the problem, but I start picturing the cars. If I had tried to kind of become an engineer in a way, like Three Idiots says, right? So if I tried to become an engineer, maybe I would have struggled and got through, but I wouldn't have become a very good engineer. And when you're not good at something, you don't tend to enjoy it as well, more often than not, right? You don't enjoy doing it if you're not good at it. Because if Harsha Bogle had still said, no, 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 I want to be a cricketer itself, and was obtuse and adamant towards that, he would have been one of those players that was always kept out of the team, right? And that's not something which is a very nice thing to do. So what I realized about myself at a relatively early age is that I wasn't good at that kind of maths. I wasn't interested really in physics or chemistry. I never understood chemistry at all, right? And however hard I tried, but I had natural interests and natural talents, and some of those natural interests was always around entrepreneurship, around self development. So those were my very natural. Commerce was a very natural interest for me. And on the other side, some of my strengths were my ability to generate ideas. That was one of my strengths that I had, my ability to communicate relatively well. I wasn't good at public speaking, but I could communicate my thoughts fairly decently with people. My ability to sell things, right? I could naturally be a good salesperson, and naturally a good, I understood marketing fairly well. So these were some kind of natural strengths that I had, and of course I took my career in that path and direction. And that's why I don't look stupid. So very often when, say, I'm doing a if I'm doing a talk somewhere, and a lot of people will come in and they'll say that, oh, you did this so brilliantly, and it's almost like I have an I have this innate ability to remember a lot of quotes and proverbs, and I can literally in one 60-minute talk sometimes do 20 of these proverbs, and I just remember them. And they think that, oh wow, this person is so good at what he does. And then when they come to me and say that, very often my remark to them is like, I tell them that you must see how badly I do maths, right? So if you see that, you'd know that it's no genius. I just found an area of my life that I'm really naturally good at, and then I worked very hard on developing that further to make it a skill that really pays me a decent amount of money, right? I was okay, I had it naturally, but I worked hard on building it as a hardcore skill, and I it's my passion that I like doing it as well, and it pays well. So it's a perfect combination of a lot of those things, and that's the way I kind of chose my profession. Now, as an entrepreneur, so that's me. I play two roles, right? I play the role of the CEO of a trading company, but I also teach, and I also kind of talk, and I do that. But in my role as a CEO, for example, I'm very comfortable knowing that there are other people in my company that could do something far better than I can do it. And then I try to structure my life in a way where I find those people to do those jobs that I'm not good at doing, right? And then I need to find them well, and then I need to trust them to do that. And of course I need to kind of manage and oversee them to a certain extent. But I'm very aware of what my strengths are. I'm very aware, like the previous slide, of what my weaknesses are, what are the things that I'm not good at. And then I find the right people to kind of fill those gaps for me, right, in my life. You don't need to figure everything out yourself. As long as you get the right people to partner with, as long as you get the right people to collaborate with, and that sometimes is more than enough for you to fill those gaps in your life, right? So if you ever have a chance of like really identifying what your strengths are and choosing your profession and area of work based on that, that's an awesome situation to be in, right? So please do that if possible. If you're currently not in that situation where you can see an overhaul in terms of what you're doing, at least find the right people to surround yourself with, where you can really focus on your area of strength and they can focus on the other areas that you are possibly not that good at. And the third thing is, like, find your, even in your existing profession that you're in, find the niches there, or find the places there, where you can do like a further specialization in, which then becomes, that specialization that you're doing is in an area of your both your interest, and your strength, right? So a lot of people, again, since we have lawyers here, you could have tons of kind of people who are in law that are solicitors, that aren't necessarily counsels, which means that they're not going to court and kind of talking in a day-to-day basis. They could be very good at processing, researching, and doing a lot of things in the broad profession of law. If they're passionate about law, if they like that subject, and their strength lies in really research, putting stuff together, probably writing and doing a bunch of those things, right? So that's the way they can, even within that, find niches in which you can start operating. Yeah. Now there are, of course, don't misinterpret me on the subject of understanding your strength, right? Because there are certain things in a way that are absolutely non-negotiable for every person or professional to have, that they need to develop or need to bring in themselves, irrespective of what they're doing. For example, communication skills more often than not is one of them, right? Unless you choose to be an artist that doesn't need to communicate with anyone, and that's okay for your profession. But there are very few professions which you can do without having good communication skills. You need to, of course, have the skill of managing your time well and organizing yourself well, right? So a lot of these skills like that, like your ability to deal and work with different people, in most professions you're gonna have to do that. There could be certain where you don't need to do that much. So those are skills which are non-negotiable that you have to get better at. But at the core, if you're busy indulging in some activity which you're not naturally good at, which is not your passion, which you don't like doing at all, but you're doing it just because you've been pushed into it, or you've been doing it for all these years, or various reasons why people are in it, and if you can take a turn in another direction, please take that turn right now, if you can do it. Okay. And the last point that I want to share here, I was having a very interesting discussion with my friend who's a really senior person, and who's a CA. Right, and he's a head of auditor in some company, and we were having a discussion where he said, um, oh, you know what, I just don't enjoy what I do, and I tell my daughter, do anything but don't become a CA. That's what he told me. He said, do anything but don't become a CA, and it's so boring, right? And then we had a discussion for a good 20 minutes, and we had a discussion saying, listen, maybe you're bored about when you first became a CA. It was quite exciting for you, it's something that you enjoyed, but after doing something for a good 20-25 years, sometimes there's a certain amount of fatigue that sets into that thing, right? Where you don't enjoy it possibly as much as you enjoyed it 20 years back, that you learned a lot of things connected to this, and now maybe you're craving for new experiences in your life, right? So that's possible. So just because you don't like something right now doesn't mean that it was the wrong thing to get into, because it got you the money, it got you the fame, it got you all these things for 20 years where you relatively enjoyed doing it. It's not that you didn't enjoy doing it, right? So also be aware of fatigue that will come into certain things after spending a large amount of time with it. That doesn't mean that you chose the wrong profession or chose the wrong thing to do, so on and so forth, right? So this is another important point. So understand your strengths, otherwise you're going to keep feeling like an idiot. If you're a if you're a fish climbing a tree, right? And there will be stuff that you will be naturally equipped to doing very well, and please do those things, right? It's not difficult for a person to realize what talents and strengths are. You may have a son or daughter that's just naturally good at playing. You may have a son or daughter that's just naturally good at singing or dancing. It just comes to them naturally, and we often call it a God's gift. You need to be very aware to know what those gifts are, because sometimes they're not as obvious as being a good dancer, singer, so on and so forth, right? So you need to be acutely aware of those things and then choose your work accordingly. And this is a very important point that impacts people's confidence in a big, big, big way, right? So try to find it, try to seek it. Okay. And if you don't have it, by the way, so this is my advice to people that often say, I haven't found my passion yet, right? So what I tell people is, if you haven't found your passion yet, do whatever you're doing with passion, right? So don't use often, because a lot of people who are slightly younger use that as an excuse for a good 15 years of their working life, where they say, I haven't found my passion yet. If you haven't found your passion yet, do whatever you're doing with a lot of passion, right? And that will serve you well till you find that passion. So this is not a point, again, that you create excuses around. Okay, Arudima, yes, would you like to add on anything here or any questions?
No, nothing from me.
Okay, cool. So now, what do you need to do here? Your exercise, which you need to go back, and there's lots of exercises that you need to do. You can pause your video right here and identify your strengths and what you're good at, according to you, right? What are the 3 to 5 things that you're really good at? So, Arunima, I want to ask you a question that you can come back on screen. If I have to identify, like I mentioned earlier, what my strengths were, and today, if I have to look at them, I would really put them down as number one, my ability to generate ideas. Number two, my ability to communicate effectively with people, right? Although I've honed that skill over a long period of time. Number three is I have a natural ability, I think, to influence or convince people. Number four, I have a natural kind of understanding of business, and I would say a kind of fairly natural understanding of people, right? Those are my strengths. So I'm asking your strengths so that people, while doing this exercise, really have two people's perspective on how they look at strengths or what they're good at. So what would you say are three of your strengths?
That's a tough question.
Go for it.
um, I think the English language is one of my strengths.
Yeah.
And under that, I think writing is
Yeah.
so English, because I love the language.
Mm,
I understand it really well, the rules of it. I
yeah.
enjoy reading, but I think I'm relatively good at writing. So I
Yeah.
think that's definitely one of my strengths.
Yeah.
Um,
I think you put across your thoughts orally as well, fairly. Verbally, you put across your thoughts fairly well as well.
so yeah, I guess when it comes to communicating in the English language, I'm fairly good at that.
Yeah.
Um, I I don't know if being hardworking is a strength, because there are things that I don't get. There are skills that don't come naturally to me, but what
Yeah.
I know I'm good at is then putting in the effort to really master that particular skill.
Correct. So
And I
I
don't
think,
know if
yeah, sorry, go on.
no. So again, I don't know if that's more a characteristic or is it a strength.
It's a partly both, right? Because that's in a way a personality trait that you have, that you're very diligent, that you're very focused, and I think that again
Correct.
is a kind of natural, something that you're naturally good at being diligent and being kind of right. You can really focus your energies around one thing without getting overtly distracted,
Correct.
and that is something which is good. I think from knowing you, I think being organized
Yes, I was going to
is,
mention that. Correct.
yeah. So would you say that that's your third strength?
Yes, I think being organized and sort of if I have to put certain processes down, I can really think through things, and then that's where my organization skills come into play,
Correct.
where managing a lot of different things and getting into, I think, the details. I think attention to detail again is a very, I think it's a strength of mine.
Correct.
Um, yeah, so I think the English language, organization skills, and I think attention to detail. Last
Correct.
again, being more a characteristic as opposed to being skill.
Correct.
Yeah, I think those are my answers.
Correct. I know of many more strengths or talents that you have, but this is just more for the audience that are listening to this to get an understanding of it. So, for those of you who are listening, put down, identify your strengths and what you're good at. Right. That could be in your professional life, in your personal life, anything that comes to your mind as your natural talent. It could be, even for that matter, singing, dancing. I want you all to really go all out and at least put 5 points, if not more points, that I want you to really go and kind of discuss with your coach, because I want you to also have a strength. Understanding your strength is also about building your confidence of saying that, hey, there are so many things that I'm naturally good at that I have never acknowledged, that I never give myself credit for, right? And that's one of the things that I want you to do. Whether you've made it a profession or not is secondary to me. What's more important is you just putting it down and acknowledging it for yourself, that these are the kind of strengths that you have, right? Things that come to you naturally. So yeah, that's the second thing. So identify the specific areas that lead to your lack of confidence. Number two, identify what your strengths are. And number three is this, right? Be genuine and true to yourself. A very esoteric sounding point. Don't try to be somebody else. Don't focus on pleasing others or living by their standards and expectations. When you try to be something you're not, you won't feel comfortable and in turn feel a lack of confidence. Such an important point, right? Literally write this down somewhere, ladies and gentlemen. When you try to be something you're not, you won't feel comfortable and in turn will feel a lack of confidence, right? So these are just a few examples that we put down, but there are just so many areas where people tend to do this and in turn their confidence gets battered, right? Now, if you are going to go and make a presentation, or if you're in a meeting, and you're not somebody that's probably naturally funny, right? There's so many people, for them that is their talent. Their talent is their ability to just be funny and make people laugh in any situation, right? And a lot of people, when they go into presentations, they will try to be humorous and they'll try to be funny, although that doesn't really come naturally to them, but they're trying to copy somebody else and they're trying to be somebody else because they've seen that they do it so well, and then it falls flat on its face, and that, like, causes a dip in their confidence even more when they're presenting, right? A lot of people, oh my god, I've seen tons of people doing this, right? So while I keep talking about the importance of the English language in the context of at least corporate India, that it's very important, but for so many people, they're not really comfortable with the English language, but or they speak in a certain regional accent, which is totally fine, right? So we're the only country that cares so much about these regional accents. For example, if you're somebody from France and you speak with a if you speak your English with a French accent, it's totally fine. But if you're from Bengal and speak with a slight Bengali accent, we think it's the end of the world, right? We have these deep inferiority complexes that we carry for years without any reason. So if, for example, that you have grown up in a certain part of India, and if you carry a slight kind of accent, or you pronounce words in a way that people from that area pronounce words, there is nothing wrong with it. You don't need to try to, try to be somebody else or try to speak like somebody else. You don't need to do that, right? You can be very comfortable in your own skin. The same thing with clothes, right? Don't wear clothes that are trendy, but kind of wear clothes that will make you comfortable. And of course, learn how to dress well, right? And do dress well, but don't constantly try to be and feel and do stuff like somebody else. You may observe other people and try to learn from them, but that's very different from you trying to copy them. If you're a batsman, you may observe other batsmen and try to learn from them, but it's very different from trying to copy another person and copy their style totally, right? So be true to yourself, right? And the more you do that, the more you try to be somebody else, you may think that that's working for you, but as a matter of fact, you will feel a lack of confidence because that is not you, in a way. Yes, Arunima.
In our when we were discussing the causes of lack of confidence, one of the
Yes.
things that we discussed was
Yes.
uncharted territory, right?
Yes.
And in a
Yeah.
way,
Yeah.
when you do something that's outside of, if it's not genuinely you,
Correct.
that's in a way uncharted territory, and then
Mhm.
you're in a way proactively putting yourself in a situation where you're going to feel a lack of confidence because that is
Correct.
something that's not familiar to you.
Correct.
So you can directly equate it to that.
Correct. So again, when you go to swim for the first time, right, and you've not done it, that's uncharted territory for you. So it's very natural for you to kind of say that, oh, this is the first time I'm doing something. But that's very different if you're driving for
Mm-hmm.
the first time. Again, right, that's
Mm.
uncharted territory. You haven't done it before. That's very different. There you're trying to learn a skill, and when you're trying to learn a skill or anything, or you're doing it for the first time, there is going to be a certain amount of jitters that you're going to have, very different from
Mm.
putting on an act, or trying to be somebody else, right?
Okay.
Very, very different from that. And people do that so
Okay.
much, and they're kind of not comfortable in their own skin and not comfortable being themselves, right? If you speak with a slight accent
Right.
from a certain part, that's okay, right? If your language is not good enough, you don't need to have inferiority complexes. Work hard on getting it better, but it's totally fine, right? And Narendra Modi became the prime minister of the country without knowing English, and you're worried about a little bit of
Correct.
English that you don't know, right? So don't do that to yourself. There's a very nice quote that says, "Don't let what you cannot do get into the way of what you can do." Right? Such a nice use of words,
Mm.
right? Don't let what you cannot do get into the way of what you can do. And you constantly beating yourself and trying to be somebody else is a way of letting stuff that you cannot do get into the way of what you can do. And it also relates to the first two
Correct.
points that we discussed around this, right?
Correct.
So do that. Arunima, can you think of any other examples here that we can give people besides the two or three that we've given? Have you experienced this in your kind of life or past, where?
Um, In a way, yes. I
Yeah,
believe that's why I gave the clothes example,
yeah,
because that's a personal one, in fact, where I have a
correct.
very specific way of dressing,
Yeah,
where I don't wear colors.
correct.
And often my friends would tell me that, you should wear colors. So then we went out and got ourselves a few colorful outfits. And I never felt like myself in them. Never. And I would
Correct.
wear them to
Correct.
college. This was
Correct.
about 5 years back.
Correct.
And I would just not feel good
Feel
on those
good.
days.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So I think that's why
Correct.
that was a very personal example that I shared. Because
Correct.
the moment you put yourself in something which is not you, like I've mentioned,
Correct.
that you don't feel comfortable, and like you mentioned at
Correct.
the start, that confidence is someone feeling comfortable in their own skin.
Yeah.
And here you've taken yourself out of that skin
Yeah.
literally and put yourself in something else.
Correct.
Yeah, but I will give some thought, and if I come up with another example, I'll share it.
Okay, great. So think of a this is the exercise. You can pause it here and do this exercise and take it back to your coach, which is think of a time where you have tried to be something you're not, right? And what were the repercussions of this? Did you feel confident in that situation, right? Because we have 7 billion people on this planet. We can't predict exactly how somebody is going to feel in every situation, right? So I want you to try to recollect your situation, because all of us have been through this at some point or the other, right? Where we've tried to be something that we're not. And yeah, and what were the repercussions of that? So that's point number one, which is increase your self awareness if you want to start becoming more confident. Right now, the second thing is gain confidence through success and accomplishments. Right. There's a very nice quote that says nothing succeeds like success. Right. And when I read this quote close to 15 years back, I had no clue what it meant. It just sounded very good, where it said nothing succeeds like success. And what it basically meant, as I grew older, I realized it, that what happens is the more successful you become, the more you get success of any kind, that leads to you becoming confident, and the more confident you become, that again leads to more success coming to you. And this is like an upward nice spiral that keeps happening in a person's life. And of course, the only time that is a problem is when you become overconfident or arrogant, right? If you don't reach that point, confidence will lead to you becoming successful, and success will again kind of lead to you, and that becomes like that upward spiral that you go through, right? And I think even the example that I shared earlier on of me going from an ICSE school to another a Goa board, and then me kind of feeling slightly more successful in that situation kind of led to me feeling confident, right? So get victories under your belt. Guys, this is something that you need to do if you want to grow in your confidence, right? Which is get results consistently, do your job well, overperform. Okay, I cannot kind of tell you the importance of this more. Get results consistently, do your job well, overperform. Now what tends to happen in most cases is when you become the kind of person that gets results consistently for your organization, more often than not the organization will reward you in terms of better money, in terms of better opportunity, in terms of appreciation that starts coming in from your boss, your super boss, your clients. So these three or four things start happening when you build a reputation and get results consistently for your company. What does that mean? And consistently is the key word, right? um, if you get a result once in a while, that's not enough for you to build a reputation, right? But if you're, in a way, your target is 100 and you consistently deliver 120 for your organization, that will start growing your own confidence. And it's almost crazy. I think I've shared this in an earlier class that we've done. So when I would do training over the last 10 years, and I would enter a room, and especially a room of salespeople that I would be training on something, it was so easy for me to tell which of those people would meet their targets consistently and which of them would not, just based on their body language, right? And the way they were during the class. And more often than not, the people that consistently met their results and consistently they had a certain sense of confidence, which you could call colloquially, you could call that swagger, right? They would enter the room, they would sit with a certain amount of swag. And why would that happen? Because they had a history of getting good results for their company. They would feel more confident because of those results that they've gotten for them. And on the other side, if you have not got results for your company, and you're constantly being kind of pushed by your bosses, and you're sometimes criticized by your bosses, people are sitting on your head, that's not a very good feeling, and that doesn't lead to confidence growing, right? So that's why it's so important for you to meet your KRAs. It's so important for you to perform consistently, to do well consistently, and see that upward trajectory and growth in your career. That will come from more money, better opportunities, promotions, appreciation, recognition. And this is that upward trajectory is very important for your confidence to grow, right? Because unless you get those victories under your belt, irrespective of what else I tell you to do, your confidence is not really going to grow, right? But this thing, getting victories under your belts, which comes from this point, is something which is important. Yes, Arunima.
Could it also be that if you're not performing,
Yeah.
do you have that constant worry of like, oh, I may lose my job? So that
Also
then
that.
again puts an like added pressure and that confidence, because someone who's performing know that
Yeah.
their job is
Yeah.
stable. They
Yeah.
don't have to worry about that. So
Yeah.
they can walk into office knowing that, okay, I have this job, versus
Yeah.
someone who's not performing. So could
Yeah.
that also be another
Absolutely.
reason?
Absolutely. That would be another reason, right? Where
Right.
you're constantly worried about, oh, what is my boss going to say to me tomorrow? You may even not be worried
Hmm.
about losing your job, but oh, what is my boss going to say to me tomorrow? Oh God, Arunima, I know so many people that don't do their basics right. If somebody is supposed to give a weekly report on Friday by 5 o'clock, they know that they're supposed to
Hmm.
do it. They don't do that. They don't do what they're supposed to do on that Friday, right?
Correct.
Because they're lazy, they're not organized. Then they're worried about it, or they forget about it, and then come Monday morning, somebody is sitting on their head and literally treating them like a child. Why would you do that to
Hmm.
yourself? That's like absolutely stupid to do that to yourself, right?
Correct.
And that's exactly the opposite of what you need to do to grow your own confidence, right? Get those victories under your belt. I want to share something which is connected to the previous point that was there, and you know who I'm talking about. So we used to have this person. This is about identifying your strengths and what you're good at and what you're not good at, right? So we used to have this person that used to work in our sales department. And today Work Better does, we sell to corporates and we also sell to individuals, right? We do both these things, but this was like some 4 5 years back, or I think 3 years back, where we would only sell to India's biggest corporates, right? So this guy that was a part of our sales and client servicing team, he was not very good at kind of talking to corporates and doing what is called business to business or B2B sales, because the sales cycles used to be a lot more longer. It used to take a lot more time to make breakthroughs there. But then for whatever reason he moved out of our company, and he joined a company that did really well in the education space. And but there he moved from this kind of sales, he moved into B2C, which is business to consumer, talking to individual sales. Now to somebody's eye, all sales may seem like the same thing, right? But within that sales, certain people's talents, natural talents, could be more geared towards just talking to consumers directly versus talking to businesses. Certain people's talents could be more towards shorter sales cycles and not longer sales cycles, right? So even something which is as small a change as that in what works in your area of strength is so important, right? Then because that in turn connects to getting results, right? And the reason why I thought of him is because he went from being more or less a non-performer in this setup, because maybe he wasn't operating in his area of strength, to being a he went to operating to his area of strength, and then he also started working really hard and started delivering results, right? So if his target was 100, he would deliver 150% month on month, year on year. He did that. He worked 18 hours a day and got those results for his companies. So his confidence would be even higher right now, right? Because he identified what his area of strength was, and then he built a reputation over whatever 3 years of actually delivering results and doing that consistently, and that leads to your confidence going sky high, right? So these are not things that just happen to you magically. Of course, like we discussed, for a few people, they could be a little more naturally predisposed towards feeling more confidence, although they're hollow from inside, right? So if you often wondered what reason does this person have to feel so confident, know that okay, he was just naturally born like that, right? And that's one of their strengths for that matter. Okay, so get victories under your belt, build right habits. Oh my god, this is such an important point, right? Now, why is this an important point? Because when you build the right habit, it is basically you winning every day. Now, what does that mean? If you, especially during the lockdown, if you're working from home and you have kind of decided that every day you're going to walk or run for 1 hour, and if you do that, and if you decide to do that five days out of 7 days, and if you do it 5 days out of 7 days a week, every day it's a small victory for you, right? And that small victory that happens on a day to day basis also leads to your confidence going up, right? So you will have, if you do that 5 days out of 7 days a week, you will win on a daily basis and start feeling and becoming a different person because you got into that habit that was there. And you'll also see the end result that you want, which is probably losing weight or being more fit. So you'll see the advantage of how you'll feel because of what you do on that day, but you'll also see the advantage over a period of time. And therefore, kind of getting yourselves into the right kind of habits becomes so important. The right habit is more or less, there's a very nice person called James Clear who writes a very good blog and a book on this subject called Atomic Habits, a book that I recommend and you must read. He says getting and developing good habits is not as much as the final result, but it's more about the person that you become in the process of building those habits, right? Because if you go and walk every day, it's like a small victory for yourself every day, which improves your self-esteem, which improves your confidence, because you become the person that does what they decide to do, right? And that becomes very important. So get results consistently, do your job well, overperform, don't do stupid stuff like not delivering on stuff that you've promised. Build the right habits, so that's a victory every day for you. Right now, the third thing to do here is set realistic confidence boosting goals. Okay, now a lot of people that I know don't feel confident because they don't know how to do good goal setting. Okay, which where first of all they don't set smart goals for themselves, and you should read on what smart goals are. If you don't know what smart goals are, you should read up on that. They don't do that. And number two, they set themselves in a way impossible goals because they've read somewhere that, oh, you need to set yourselves goals which are like impossible. And what happens is, because they set themselves those impossible goals of saying, oh, I'm going to become a multimillionaire within the next 1 year, and when those things don't happen, because in 9.5 out of 10 cases those things are not going to happen, you'll have one odd guy that'll hit the jackpot somehow. That itself leads to your confidence getting beaten, right? So if you need to get victories under your belt for you to start feeling more confident, which means that you need to meet the goals that you set for yourself for your confidence to grow, right? If you set yourself a goal of fitness to say that I'm going to lose 15 kgs in 1 month, and then if that doesn't happen, then you will not feel confident, you'll give up. But if you set yourself a realistic yet challenging target, right, but it needs to have a sense of realism to it, and then you meet that kind of spurs your confidence, and then you're like, okay, now let me go to the next level, right? And I've seen a lot of people don't do this setting realistic confidence boosting goals, and I would suggest that you read up on smart goals, right? Arunima, if possible, as a part of the learning resources, also send them an article on this thing, right, of how to set goals
Yeah,
properly. The other kind of resource that you could give our students is send them the James Clear blog on building the right habits, right? So if you can just send them a link of that, that will be
sure.
good reading material for you on this subject. Okay. Now, the fourth point here is handle
Swapnil, I
set.
have a question.
Yes, yes, please ask me.
For the third point, which is setting
Yeah,
realistic confidence boosting
yes,
goals,
yeah,
would you say that people who are perfectionists, are
yeah.
they setting unrealistic goals for themselves?
very often they're doing that, right? Because again, perfectionist people look at that kind of subject in different ways of what perfectionist actually means. But yeah, very often getting something done on time is far more important than delaying it by a week and improving on that last 2% of it. In most situations, in certain situations that may not be true, but uh, do not seek refuge under the term perfectionist to
Mhm.
set yourself unrealistic goals and then beat yourself up when you don't meet those unrealistic goals, right?
Mhm.
There is nothing, Arunima, there is nothing more. I think both of us know, and we've discussed that there is nothing more important for your confidence than getting victories under your belt. And
Correct.
that happens when you start meeting your goals. You're not going to meet your goals all the time, right? You, me, all of us could have set certain goals, and something like corona totally took the wind out of those goals, right? On different parameters, and that's going to happen from time to time, which is our fourth point in a way.
Yeah.
But there's nothing more better than actually meeting those goals, or at least being close to meeting those goals, than not meeting them. If you set the wrong goal post, that's a problem in itself, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Now, while you're trying to achieve something, which is the fourth point, you are going to have setbacks are going to happen, mistakes are going to happen. And if you want to build your self confidence, you need to start becoming more comfortable with mistakes. There's a nice quote that says, fail faster, succeed sooner. So, unless you're comfortable with the fact that, okay, I failed, I did something in a wrong fashion, but if I want to achieve something, that's very natural that I'm going to make mistakes and there are going to be setbacks. And of course, if you keep making the same mistakes again and again, something is wrong with you. And what you need to aim at doing, in a way, I wouldn't say aim at doing, but if new kind of mistakes happen because you're chasing a goal, you're chasing your results, and new kind of mistakes happen, and if you're learning from them, great. But a lot of people are so bad at um, handling setbacks and handling mistakes when they happen, right? Because they are living in some kind of land where they think that, oh, everything needs to go perfectly right for me to meet my goal. And the minute those setbacks happen, they kind of are too harsh on themselves. They start the negative self talk to themselves, right? They do that and they blow that little thing into a big thing, right? And that's not good for your confidence if you're going to go about doing that. So if you're going to be setting goals, if you want victories under your belt, as a part of that, you're going to have setbacks, you're going to mistakes are going to happen. Be comfortable with that failure. It's a part of your journey towards reaching somewhere, right? Now, the fifth point is face your fears, take baby steps towards things that make you lose confidence, right? I was having a conversation with Arunima. Arunima is somebody that doesn't like making presentations. She makes amazing content, but every time I ask her to actually, I say, why don't you teach this subject yourself? Here she is, right? She'll come and she'll say, oh, no, 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 how can I do that, right? And then my thing to her is to say, hey, you communicate your thoughts well, you make great content, but maybe you are scared to, or feeling a lack of confidence in terms of presenting something on a scale like this, right? Now, how do you get over that? Because your ability to present is a key business skill, and Arunima is going to need it as much as anybody else is going to need it, right? So take baby steps towards it, which means that if there is a presentation in office which is slightly more low stakes, right? Start by doing those presentations on a regular basis, right? So you're taking a baby step towards your fear, in a way. And then once you're done with that level and you're used to now presenting at that level, then say, okay, come on, now let me raise the stakes slightly of this thing, and then you face your fear in that kind of a way. If you're scared of presenting in front of senior people, right? You say, okay, I'm presenting in front of my peers. Now let me go one level on top. Let me present to my boss or my super boss. Then let me present to the level above that, right? It's a very important for you to do that. All success lies right outside your comfort zone, and if you're not going to face your fears, they are going to overpower you. But the more you face them, the more you realize that, oh, this is more a figment of my imagination than any real threat that I have in this situation, right? It's more that, but baby steps is what you need to take, because if you jump into a high stake situation, you could get crippled in that situation, and that again may lead to a downward of your confidence, right? That could tend to happen. So face your fears, but with baby steps towards them. Yes, Arunima.
I had another question.
Yes.
Going back to point three,
Yeah.
uh, I- confidence boosting goals. Someone may interpret as, okay, I need to set goals, achieve them, so I feel better about myself. Right?
Yes. Yes.
There is also a danger, I
Yeah.
believe, to
Yeah.
setting easy goals, right? Because if you're
Correct.
just setting goals that you can very easily achieve,
Correct.
I believe at some point you don't get that sense of achievement anymore. So could you shed a little bit of light in terms of that aspect of it as well?
Correct. So I think the minute you understand smart goal setting, I think that will help a lot. And when I've done classes on goal setting in the past, I tell people that your goals must be realistic yet challenging. Right,
Hmm.
so that is what your
Hmm.
goals need to be. They need to be realistic yet challenging, so they need to push you further, because the job of goals is not just to achieve your goals, but to change you as a person. In a way, it's what the
Correct.
person that you become in the process of achieving those goals. So somewhere between challenging and realistic is where your goals need to lie. If they're too easy, you yourself won't get the satisfaction out of achieving them. But if you put
Hmm.
themselves so ambitious and so way past, then you're going to kind of keep beating on your confidence by not achieving them, right? So it has to
Correct.
be in that sweet spot, in a way,
Yeah, makes sense.
right, that you need to do. Okay, so get victories under your belt. This is a super important point to grow your confidence. Now, this is your exercise. What are the three things that you can start doing to improve your results at work, right? So be honest with yourself, be real with yourself, and tell us what those three areas are, and write them down right now. Pause the video and you can do it. You're going to take this to your coaching session, of course. What habits do you need to build in yourself, right? Identify any 1 to 3 habits that you know that you need to build in yourself, because like we discussed, just the act of consistently delivering on that certain habit and putting that into action, that is going to boost your confidence, right, while doing it. And what is the one big fear you have, and how can you slowly move towards conquering it, right? What are the baby steps that you can take towards that thing, right? So a lot of people have presentation skills as one of their things. I think this doing this workshop is going to take you towards that thing, right? Because you're going to be doing a lot of presentations during these classes, so that itself is taking the baby steps. But if you have some other kind of fears that you have, a lot of people who work in like large corporates often fear talking to their seniors, right? Come on, if that's one of your fears, what's the baby step that you can take? Maybe, just interact with them once, or interact with them during some casual setting, and then you can, seek an appointment with them, interact with them again. I don't know what it is, but you identify what that one big fear is, and what in your opinion is slowly moving towards it. And I gave you the example of how you can do it towards presentation, for that matter, right? um, I'll give you another example that for a lot of entrepreneurs that say want to do fundraising and want to meet investors and stuff like that. What are the baby steps? And if that's something that you fear, try to meet low stakes investors, right? So don't try to meet the top funds to start with, but just try to meet some low stake investors where it's okay if they don't invest in your business, but you go and meet them anyway, as a matter of kind of confidence boosting, as a matter of getting used to how that meeting needs to go. And as you go along, then you can kind of meet more high stake investors, and that's the baby steps you can take towards that. So in each and every situation, or each and everything that you fear, there's always that baby step that you can take towards moving ahead there, right? So this is what you need to do, and take these answers to your coach. Okay, now, this is another big one, right? So take pride in your achievements. So once you do the previous thing, and once you get certain victories under your belt, acknowledge when you do good work. Don't downplay your achievements, relish in them in some way, right? And this is what a lot of people don't do. A lot of people aren't very good at acknowledging just the good work they have done, and that becomes very important. Accept praise as seriously as you do criticism. A lot of us are very good at accepting criticism, but we're not very comfortable with accepting praise. And ensure that you do that, right? Acknowledge the good work that you've done. And this is a very nice idea. Maintain an accomplishment journal. Make a note of your major achievements or praise from others. When self denial creeps in, You can flip through the pages and see that you are valuable and worthy, right? Again, very important for people that are low on confidence. You have in the past had some achievements, done certain things well, probably got some appreciation mails, certificates, just stuff that you have achieved through your life, right? Acknowledge those things and start maintaining a journal of your major achievements that are there, and that's something that will really help you, right? Yes, Arunima.
I have a philosophical question here for you.
Yes, please ask me.
Um,
I'll give you a
you may not have
philosophical
a
answer.
scientific answer for this, but
Yeah,
is there any? What is your opinion
yeah,
behind the psychology of this, where people
yeah.
um, are unable to take pride in their achievements? What, according to you, stops them from doing that, and why are they so quick to believe criticism but not praise?
See, from the couple of people that I have dealt with that I know have this problem, I like these are people that I know very well that have this problem. One of the reasons why they don't do it is because they think it may go to their head, right? So that's one big reason where they're like, okay, you know what, I don't want to get complacent,
Hmm.
and I don't want this to go to my head that somebody said something good about me. And very often that's not a very good treatment of it, right? So a very good
Hmm.
treatment of it is to really acknowledge that you've done something well, acknowledge your accomplishment, and yet not let it go to your head, right? Or become
Hmm.
complacent around it, because that will again lead to your failure in a way. So the biggest reason, in my opinion, of people that I know closely that have done it is because they're scared that it may go to their head and they don't want to accept it at all, in a way.
Okay.
That's the biggest one that I have seen in
Okay.
people, right? So get good at kind of if somebody compliments you or somebody acknowledges you, get good at just saying, hey, thank you very much, right? Don't and you do that so often, right? Don't crack a joke towards it, or don't try to
Right.
deflect it in any way, right? Just say, yeah, okay, yeah, I did this well, and be acknowledging of the fact that you did it well. Let it sink in a way, for you, and don't try to kind of deflect it. For a lot of people, although they enjoy the and I can't speak of all 7 billion people on the planet, right? People are just not used to appreciation by somebody else. People are not used to somebody else acknowledging their work, that they don't sometimes know how to react to it at all when somebody actually does, because they're so not used to somebody saying that thing to them. So that's one of the other kind of reasons why that happens, right? So take major pride in your achievements. The question that I have for you, the exercise that you need to carry back to your coaching classes: think of 3 to 5 achievements in your personal or professional life that you should be proud of, right? So write these things down right now, and take them back to your coaching class and have a discussion on this with your coach. Again, just verbalizing and articulating this thing will help you so much, right? Now, the third thing from the point of view of getting success under your belt is, you're never going to get success under your belt unless you focus on developing your skills, right? Since confidence is often directly linked to abilities, one of the best ways to build your confidence is to get new skills or experience and step out of your comfort zone. Okay. Now I'll just share something which is simple. A lot of people that talk about not being confident to hold a conversation with someone often are not confident of holding a conversation with someone because they don't have anything to talk about, because they don't really know anything to talk about besides just general stupid stuff like saying ye picture dekhi, ye IPL acha chal raha hai na, right? Because their general awareness is so poor that they really struggle to make conversation, and that's why their confidence is low. So if you develop your general knowledge and general awareness, if you're somebody that's relatively well read, that will help you in making better conversation with people when you meet them, right? But when you know that your general awareness is so poor and you've not developed it, very naturally you're not going to feel confident when you're having conversations with people. And that's just one aspect of it, right? Your own abilities are kind of have a direct connection with your confidence, right? Your own abilities are the direct connection with your confidence, so that the more you go about developing the critical abilities that you need, naturally your confidence is going to go up, because those skills that you develop, the behaviors that you develop, the attitudes that you develop in yourself are also start going to producing a better result, so that upward spiral kind of will happen, right? You have often seen, and you would have seen that time and again, that people that go to, and this happens in most cases, people that go to good educational institutes that are highly competitive to get into, often have good confidence levels, right? Why? Because there's a sense of achievement that is there, and there's certain skills that they've probably built. It's both these things that have happened. On the other side, you have a lot of people that have, say, gone to an IIT, um, and yet walk out with poor confidence levels. And if you actually think of them, you know why that is? Because in a way they develop their hard skills, but they've not developed their soft skills, and they know that. So they've not taken the effort to improve on the communication, articulation, all these things. So even though they have the technical skills and the badge of a good institute, they still know their skills from the inside, that they've not developed themselves in this whole area of life which they need to do, right? And that's again a reason why their confidence is down. But if you look at people that come out from the good schools, have developed both their hard, their soft skills, they have a sense of achievement, they have skills that are developed to a certain extent, because skills are something that you can keep developing as you go along. And a combination of those things, they're very confident, sometimes can also come across as arrogant, to people, right? And people usually come across as arrogant to people. A lot of people with low confidence, anybody is arrogant for them. That's the other thing, right? So if you find everybody arrogant, more often than not, the problem is that you are very low on confidence. People are not that arrogant, but you take offense to very, very small things because you're low on confidence, right? You take offense if somebody is in a car driving by, they don't say hi to you, you think that person is arrogant, but he's busy driving his car, right? Because of your low confidence, you continue being petty, and you think the whole world is against you, right? So that's another sure shot sign. If you find everybody arrogant, more often than not, the problem is that you have an inferiority complex, or you're low on confidence, and that's the reason why you're looking at the world from that lens, in a way, right? So focus on developing your core skills. That is something that is going to be very important for you in the knowledge economy, right? Because your skills are directly connected to your results, in a way. Okay. So again, another question for you that I want you to take back. What are the 1 to 3 skills? You choose how many that you want to discuss, that you want to develop and master over the next 3 years. I'm assuming now that you're a part of this program, this is one skill that you want to master for sure. And you know by now, because I've constantly repeated it umpteenth amount of times, that just listening to this lecture and going through the live coaching classes are not enough for you to improve your skills, right? You need to do your communication gym exercises. You need to put each and everything that you learn into action very consciously for you to get better at it. But I'm assuming that communication is one skill that you genuinely want to improve, and you need to put the work there. But what are some of the other skills beyond that that you want to improve in a 3 year time frame, right? Get so busy improving yourself and developing your skills that you don't have time for anything else, right? You're so focused on you and your own life that you don't have the time to criticize what your chief minister is doing, prime minister is doing. You are focused on your life, on getting better, on bettering yourself and bettering the life for your immediate family and friends, right? That's more than enough. And then you'll be a good citizen for the rest of the world as well, right? So focus on developing your key skills. That's something that's important. Now, we're on our last point, ladies and gentlemen, so pay very careful attention. Harness the power of positivity. Okay, now, what does that mean? Number one, practice positive thinking, right? Bring positivity to your past, present, and future. Okay, I'm going to spend some time on this point. On point number one, bring positivity to your past, present, and future. So, I kind of wrote this article a long time back where I said that people more often than not will tell you to be positive without explaining to you how exactly to do it, right? They just say be positive, but how do you actually be positive? So I broke the subject of positivity down into 3 parts. I said learn to be past positive, learn to be present positive, and learn to be future positive, right? These are the 3 states in which we exist as human beings. So what does past positive mean? It means something very simple. It means all of us have a past, and the difference between people that are positive and the difference between people that are not positive is the interpretation that they give their past. right? And that interpretation that you give your past is largely in your hands. Okay. Often people go through very tragic circumstances and they draw out lessons from those tragic circumstances, and they say that this tragedy happened to me, but I'm still interpreting that tragedy that happened to me in a positive fashion by pulling something out that I learned because of this, right? I'll give you an example which is very cruel. If any one of y'all have lost a parent at an early age, that's the most cruel thing to happen to a child, right? When they lose a parent at an early age. But a lot of people that I've known have interpreted that tragic incident and given it a positive spin, where they say, because I lost a parent at an early age, I had to become more mature earlier on. And because I became more mature earlier on, that really helped me get better marks and, really grow myself as a person because of that early tragedy that happened. And so many other people can take an event from the past and interpret it and be a victim of that particular event, right? So treat your past not as a burden, but as a school in a way, right? So that is how you can take every incident from your past and interpret it in a positive way, which basically means what is the positive that you can take and learn from things that have even been very, very tragic to you, right? So for example, you could lose a job in a certain situation, or your business could go down. Now you can whine about that thing and complain about that thing, but you can also look at what positive came out of you losing your job. And maybe you losing the job, the positive that came out of it is, you realize the importance of developing your skills further. You probably realize the importance of being a top performer and not a bottom performer in your company. You realize probably it gave you an opportunity to have a fresh start at something, so on and so forth, right? There could be many positives that you can draw out of your past if you choose and if you interpret it in a positive. And you literally, for a lot of people, you need to force yourself to draw out the positive from your past. Somebody like Oprah Winfrey, if you watch a lot about her, right? She had very, very tragic circumstances as she was growing up, but when she talks about them, she acknowledges the fact that it was very tough, but from each one of those things she draws something positive that she uses, right? So that's how you be past positive. It's a very consciously you need to look at your past and pull the positive out of it, right? Present positive basically means your ability to keep yourself in a positive state of mind in the present, or for a want simple words is you need to keep yourself in a positive mood more often than not. Because if you're somebody that's not in a positive state of mind all the time, you're not a pleasure to live in your own body, and you're not a pleasure to for people around you. And you will start taking your decision making will get hampered, and you'll start taking bad decisions. You'll start becoming not pleasurable in relationship, and that's not very good if you don't keep yourself present positive. It has a big impact on your decision making and each and every one of these things, right? How do you do that? You need to be conscious about your state of mind, right? And you need to do certain things that will lead you to feeling positive in that at that point of time. And of course, one of the things which is the point here, right, exposing yourself to right material, positive material, which I will come to later. But some of the other things that you can do to keep yourself positive in the moment is the kind of listening to the right kind of music. It could be about doing exercising at the right time that keeps you in the right state of mind, doing yoga, meditation, watching positive material, and a bunch of other things that we're going to state as we go along helps you become positive in the present, right? And we'll talk more about that as we go along. And future positive basically means is your ability to look at the future, not out of being anxious and thinking that everything is going to go wrong, but looking at the future, looking at your goals, and really having an approach of saying that I will meet my goals, my future will be good. Sure, I'm going to have a lot of bumps along the way. Sure, there are going to be lots of setbacks. There's going to be failures. There's going to be the year 2020 that's going to come in the middle, right? And there's going to be Corona that's going to happen. Sure, a lot of these things will come in the middle, but eventually I will succeed, right? So that's also called the Stockdale paradox. And Arunima, you may want to send that link to our students as well, right? On the Stockdale paradox and what that means as a way of thinking.
Will do.
Right? So that's really thinking about the future from a way way that's positive, where you're saying that I will succeed eventually. Like good things are going to happen. There may be bumps along the way, but I'm not going to let go of that positiveness around what I'm going to meet. Versus saying कि मेरे साथ सब बुरा ही होता है, मेरा तो नसीब ही खराब है, right? Everything bad happens to me. My luck is terrible in every situation. All bad things only. कहाँ पे गए? Whining and complaining about your future like that. That's not going to help you. If you're not past positive, if you're not present positive, if you're not future positive, that is going to impact your confidence, right? Because you've never seen a confident person that's not positive, right? Rarely have you seen a person that's positive. That's rarely have you seen a person that's really genuinely confident who's not positive in a way, right? It's almost not possible. Now, control your internal monologues, right? And which is a point that we discussed earlier as well. Human beings are the only species that can think about the way they think, right? That's what consciousness is about. We can think about the way we think, right? And therefore human beings are the only species that can really control their thoughts, right? And they can bring about a change to their thoughts. Most other species can't do that. Now if that is the difference between you and other species, in a way you need to make use of that by being hawk-eyed about the kind of internal conversations that you're having, right? And with a lot of them you really need to be careful about the internal monologues that you're having, and you need to really catch them and sometimes crush them really really early on, right? If there's a lot of negative self-talk that's happening with you earlier, and you need to in a way convert that negative self-talk that you're doing, or those negative monologues that are happening in your head, into consciously catch them by being hawk-eyed and convert them into positive stuff that you're going to say. And it can't be stupid positive stuff, right? And especially when you're in a crisis situation like corona, where you can't be in a situation then next month everything will be okay, right? Those are not that's not positive thinking. That's just stupid thinking, right? You need to be pragmatic, saying, listen, that's what optimism is. Basically optimism is not, you need to be aware about your reality. You need to take your reality into account, right? And yet be positive that the future is going to be better, right? But you need to acknowledge your present for that to happen. So control your internal monologues by being hawk-eyed about what's happening in your head, right? Now this is something that I'm giving you a disclaimer. Both me and Arunima are doing this because most of the other things that we do, we have in a way done ourselves. We practice it to a certain extent. We have belief in it. But practice positive self-talk, which is positive affirmations, is something that I haven't ever done in my life. But every kind of all material that you read on positive thinking and in turn confidence, in a lot of cases a lot of people suggest that people do that. That really helps them, especially if they're very low on their confidence. I haven't done it myself ever, but for those of y'all who want to do it, can try that out. Which is, a lot of people talk about talking to a mirror, where you just say stuff every day to yourself early in the morning, where you say stuff like, I'm brave, I'm strong, I'm smart, I'm confident. So saying this to yourself like for 21 days, you repeat these affirmations, or you repeat these things to yourself on a daily basis. And a lot of people have said that that is helped them a lot. Again, the disclaimer is, I haven't done this. Most of the other things that I'm telling you, I actually practice them myself, but you can try it. I'm sure no harm is going to come out of kind of talking to yourself in a positive way. Right? For a lot of people, they indulge in doing stuff like prayers, right? And prayers is a form of hope. Which is, what is hope? Hope is nothing but you're hoping that the future will be good and positive, and you're using prayers as a means of kind of doing that, right? And therefore so many religions have that, like in a way that you need to go to your religious institute every Sunday. So there's a weekly schedule for it, so that you can go there and feel a sense of positiveness. In other religions you need to kind of pray, at least it's prescribed that you pray 3 times a day. So at 3 times a day you're feeling positive and hopeful in a way, right? So that's what religion is often trying to do with us. They're trying to get us to think more positively and therefore grow in our confidence, and we don't know the underlying meaning behind it, right? So practice positive self-talk. Try doing it. Okay, now expose yourself to positive material. This is one of the things that you need to do to feel positive in the present, and this is something that I do a lot. Read the right kind of books. You already know I've already given you 3 books that you need to read as a part of the communication gym, and all those 3 books are great material to make you feel more positive, to make you feel more confident. So I've already given you those books, but besides that, that YouTube, you can just watch so many videos that are so inspirational, so many speeches that are so inspirational. There's just so much of positive material out there, right? That you can really start using to feel more confident, and positive, right? And this is something that I do, like almost I expose myself to at least half an hour to 45 minutes of great positive material on a day-to-day basis, and even during the darkest times, that kind of helps me feel more positive and confident, right? And of course, the last point, replace negative words with positive ones and start seeing the bright side of situations, right? So don't use like harsh words where you don't need to use them, right? So if you're a little concerned about something, don't use a word which is as powerful as anxiety and being anxious about something, right? Anxiety and anxious is a very positive, is a very powerful word, right? But if you're a little concerned about something, just say I'm a little concerned about it. Don't say I'm anxious about it, right? A lot of times where you may use the word, oh, I had a panic attack, right? We use the word panic. It's such a strong word, and for a lot of people it's a really kind of sometimes a serious thing that happens with people, a panic attack. And we tend to use the word panic attack so casually in our language these days, right? And that kind of has, the words that you use has an impact on your impact on your mind. So don't use the word panic attack unless you really went through something which was like a panic attack, because I've seen people use it casually. Again, you could use something where you say, I got slightly concerned about something, and it's not really a panic attack. So be careful about the kind of words that you're using to in different situations, right? Don't be overly apologetic where you don't need to be apologetic, and don't get into the habit of apologizing for everything where you don't need to, right? Again, be careful about the usage of words that you have, right? So these are some of the things that you can do in terms of practicing positive thinking: past, present, future positive. Control your internal monologues, what's happening in your mind, catch things very early on and kind of be aware of your thoughts. That's a superpower that you can have. Practice positive self talk, where in front of the mirror you can keep saying these things which will make you feel better. Again, that comes with a disclaimer. Expose yourself to positive material, which are the right books, the right blogs, the right reading materials. I've already suggested them to them, that can help you and replace negative words, right? Yes, Arunima, come in.
I think another example that I wanted to share for the
Yeah,
fifth point,
yeah,
I often hear, and I think I know I have used it many times, is when you've probably made an error, or
yeah,
you've made a mistake, you use the word I failed at something,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And failure again is such a huge,
yeah,
it's such a big word.
mm,
Probably like I haven't faced real failure, but
yeah,
then when I probably hit a speed bump at work,
mm,
to me that I use the word failure, and then I feel like a failure.
absolutely.
So I think there, and this is feedback I've received from you, where you've
Yeah,
told me not to use such strong words,
yeah,
because
absolutely.
they resonate so strongly with you.
Correct. And we'll use words like, oh, I made a blunder. And I'm like, blunder? What blunder was it? It was such a small kind of, and we're calling it a blunder. And then we start believing that it's a blunder, right? So be very careful
Right.
about it. And of course, there will be times where you will make a blunder, and it's okay to acknowledge that you made a blunder, right? At it. But we have a tendency of using the wrong words for the wrong things. And that's how we start feeling internally, right?
Correct.
Okay. So this is the exercise, lots of exercises for you all to do, because this is such an important behavioral subject that we're taking up. Think of one incident from your past which you can look at positively, right? So think of something which happened in your past. I'm not talking about a positive event, right? I'm talking about just one event which you can now look at and start interpreting in a more positive way and say, oh, this is what it actually, I learned from it, and at the time it seemed very negative, right? What is the one thing from your present that puts you in a positive or a good mood, right? What is it music, is it exercise, is it yoga, is it talking to your children, is it exposing yourself to positive material? What is it that kind of puts you into a instant good mood, right? You need to know that so that you can reach out to it when you need it. Think of something about the future that you which makes you anxious or scares you. How can you start looking at it positively, right? Another important question: identify one thing and say, what is it that you can do? And think of one negative monologue that you end up repeating to yourself, and how can you what is that one thing that you keep repeating to yourself, and acknowledge it, know what it is, so that you can catch it very early on, right, from now on, and that will really help you, right? So answer each, pause this video right now, answer each one of these things right here, and then take them to your class when and discuss them with your coach, right? Now, surround yourself with positive people. There's a very nice quote that says, you become like the five people you spend the most time with. That's why choose them wisely, right? As an adult, we often tell our children, keep the right company, but as adults, often we don't keep the right company, right? If we only followed all the things that we preach to our children, we would have been at a much better place as people and professionals, right? But irrespective of what your age is, surround yourself with the right people and often supportive people, right? Surround yourself with people that make you feel good. Don't be around people that constantly put you down or make you feel less worthy. That doesn't mean that you surround yourself with people that are yes men or yes women. It doesn't mean that you surround yourself by people that are not going to call your bullshit. It doesn't mean that you don't surround your people that are not going to tell you when you're going wrong. Those are very, very important people in our lives, right? People that are going to actually do that for us. They are invaluable to us, right? But there also are a set of people that are constantly, in the way they interact with you, they're constantly being critical, they're constantly putting you down. And those are the people that, if possible, I wouldn't even say if possible, you should avoid, right? Because they don't do a lot to your confidence. It could be an uncle, it could be an aunt, it could be somebody else that are constantly saying stuff that doesn't do anything to our confidence. Surrounding oneself with supportive people directly impacts one confidence, and me and Arunima have spoken about this in detail, right? When sometimes whatever amount of self talk that you do is not enough. You need somebody to nudge you on, you need somebody to support you, you need somebody to actually put in that word for you, and that kind of encouragement really helps, right? And having, again, those kind of people are invaluable. Again, let me repeat that you need to have people that are going to call your bullshit, then you need to have people that are going to give you truthful advice, right? But the intention is what matter, right? Take feedback seriously, not personally. A lot of people will give you feedback that uh, you can't take everybody's feedback, because a lot of feedback that is given to you may not be right, but at least take the effort to hear the person out and see what you can learn from that feedback, right? And a lot of us are so busy taking feedback personally that we don't take it seriously. We are busy feeling bad about the feedback, we're not busy learning from the feedback that comes to us, right? So ensure that you're doing that, but your company that you keep is supremely important if you want to feel more positive, and in turn you want to feel more confident, right? Think of two or three people in your life who make you feel good and confident and are your cheerleaders, and also think of the few people in your life that are toxic. Listen, you're talking to your coach here, right? So actually verbalizing this, there's nothing wrong with it, but the more conscious you are about that, the more it's going to help you out. So pause the video here, make a note of these people, and if you feel that you're surrounded by too many toxic people or too many people that are a negative influence on you, see whether you can delete them from your life. But if you can't delete them from your life, see if you can manage them in some way, and that's something that's going to help you, right? Now, the last point, and with which we end this session, is stop comparing yourself. Comparison is the killer of joy. Lack of confidence often comes from a gap in where you see yourself and where you think you should be. Compare yourself with your previous self, measure how far you've come as opposed to how far behind you are to somebody else, right? You can't. Um, Comparing yourself is a very natural human tendency, but it's something that you need to try to minimize. I wouldn't say you can delete it altogether, but it's something you need to try to minimize. And you need to be very conscious about not comparing yourself, because you need to know that each and every person is been dealt a different hand of cards, right? So each and every person has got different talents, he comes from a different background, has different experiences, has different IQ levels, have different opportunities and circumstances that open up or happen in their life, right? So if you're constantly comparing yourself against people, it's a wrong thing to, it's a very natural thing to do, but you need to consciously avoid that and stay on your own track and run your own race in a way and try to become the best version of yourself. As long as you concentrate on becoming the best version of yourself, being true and genuine to yourself, that is what matters most to people. So yeah, one of the things that will often lead to comparison is this big point of don't get swayed by social media, right? Because social media, which we're very naturally as human beings attracted to because we want to know what's happening in other people's lives in a way, will lead to you constantly drawing those comparisons, whether you're doing it consciously or subconsciously. Okay. Use others as a source of inspiration, as a fuel to do better in your life, right? So honestly, it's very natural for you to look at other people, your peers, people in office, but instead of comparing yourself and feeling negative about it, look at those people and look at them from the point of view as what is it that I can learn from these people? How can these people inspire me to do better? And if you again take that positive spin on it, even that comparison will end up helping you and won't end up making you feel bad, right? You you honestly need to focus on this, right? Because it's so natural to compare yourself with, say, people that you went to uh, you were together in with in school or college, without realizing that their parents came from different socio-economic backgrounds. That probably helped them a lot. They probably had different interests from you. You don't choose your passions, your passion choose you. Your strengths were probably different. You probably made certain mistakes in your life which they didn't, and sometimes they'll make certain mistakes that you didn't, right? And that's just the way life is, and you can't do anything about it, right? You'll often end up comparing yourself to your siblings or your cousins, and that's again very, very natural to do. But in all cases, use them more as an inspiration than anything else, and that is going to help you than picking the negative out of it, right? And the last point, of course, is compare your within your own league, and this is again something that we've discussed. A lot of people feel incompetent because they're comparing themselves against people that probably have 10, 15 years more experience than them. And they're busy comparing people who are like Arunima and myself were discussing, right? So if I'm going to compare myself against a Mark Zuckerberg, right? Or I'm going to compare myself against somebody that's in a totally, somebody that's totally prodigal, maybe much younger than me, but completely prodigal in his ways. And then I'm going to beat myself down for saying that, oh, I'm so stupid. That's not a very good way of looking at stuff, right? You are going to have people that are prodigal. You are going to have people that are much more senior than you, that will have certain experience and talents that you don't have. But again, look at them as inspiration, and the more you compare yourself to them, that's again the wrong thing to do, right? So the last exercise, who do you typically end up comparing yourself to? Why do you compare yourself with them? What is it about them that you can learn and implement in your own life, right? So this is a good way of, you look at somebody that you naturally compare yourself and pick out the learnings instead of comparing yourself in a bad way or a jealous way, right? And the second question here is, how much time do you currently spend on social media? Because like it or not, that leads to comparison. What can you do to reduce it if you think you're spending a lot of time? I think anything more than 30 minutes spent on social media is way too much time spent on it, right? Anything more than, if you ask me, 20 to 30 minutes, and I mean by Facebook, Instagram, some of these things. I'm not talking about WhatsApp because a lot of our business communication is also on it, but that's what you need to do there. Okay, great. I think this was a fairly long session because the topic is a fairly big topic, lots of exercises as a part of that. But at this point of time, again, pause your video and put down your 3 to 5 biggest takeaways that you have from this session that you have attended. Write them down, and of course, you know that you need to take these takeaways to your classroom and discuss them with your coach. That's what you need to do. Yes, Arunima, do you have any questions as we finish?
No.
Okay, thank you. So, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. This is a very important topic, and I hope you've learned a lot of valuable lessons through this topic. It's a topic of great interest to me, and I was really happy in the way we put this topic together, because I have realized through my years of dealing with people that you may have all the other attributes, skills, behaviors. You may have all those things. But in the end, if you cannot master and muster self confidence when required, you are going to not succeed in your professional and personal lives, right? It is something that is immensely important. So please take this subject seriously, and please take the input that you've got and put it in your life. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.